opening weekend. That's really all that needs to be said. He's Hunter Pence. I'm Daron Sutton. As we head into week 2, this is Perfect Game College Baseball. Hunter, it's fun to have it back, isn't it? I mean, it's exciting to watch the games. You and I were just talking about watching different games from around the country. There's just an energy as the game returns. It's already come back at the JUCO level, but to have all those D1 programs back to work, it makes our lives a lot easier.
Absolutely. This is such an exciting time. All the work and all of the prep and all of the talk is over. Let's go play the games. Let's go get after it. And let's find out who's made the adjustments, where we're at. And it is an exciting time, and it feels good to be talking baseball, talking what happened, and moving forward.
Vinnie Cervino will join us on the show, the great scout and writer for Perfect Game. He'll break down with Hunter's guidance and some of my questions, some of the big stories in college baseball. We'll also talk with Scott Berry, the head coach of Southern Miss. They're truly a Power 5 caliber team, and he's just a winner. And he's a tough scheduler, and he's a great coach. I'm excited to hear you and Scott talk college baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. What a phenomenal season. 47 wins last year, win their regional, host a regional, and just run into the scorching hot national champion Ole Miss team. And man, they're doing it again. What a sweep of a really great Liberty team. And just excited to hear about how the pitching looked. Their pitching, they only gave up 3 runs in the series, only 2 earned actually. Played good defense, and so very excited to hear they have a veteran squad. It's rare you hear of an All-American starting pitcher coming back. Not to mention 7 fifth-year seniors after hosting a super regional. So, man, a lot to be excited about, and really happy to have Scott on the show.
You'll hear in the conversation, I tried to make one of their juniors a freshman, and coach reminded me, that's a junior college transfer. We're an old team. There's an advantage to that. There really, really is. So Iowa football has Brody Brecht. Iowa baseball has Brody Brecht. This is a wide receiver on the football team. In that conference, with that schedule, then he plays baseball, but he's a dude as a baseball player on the mound.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary talent, gifted athlete right here. And I'm excited to kind of hear how, because I think, everyone's like, playing 2 sports. Well, we played a lot of sports back in my day, and how much does it help you? And what are the challenges? Yes, there's both, but I think there's a benefit to it as well. So I'm excited to hear, man, he had an outstanding start to his college season this year, and it's going to be exciting. What a talent, pumping it up to 100 miles an hour, Daron. Let's hear from Brody Brecht.
Yeah, excited to talk to Brody. Ask Quinnipiac. They know his name now. He dealt with them over the weekend. That's our show. Week number 1 in the books of college baseball. As we head into week number 2, let's get it going. One of the great mid-major stories, really, that sticks and stays in college baseball is Scott Berry's Southern Miss team. And they're just always a team that presents problems for quote-unquote Power 5 conferences. And Scott spends time with us now. Well, what I find interesting, though, Scott, I've talked to other programs that play at the quote-unquote mid-major level, and they say, I don't know that we see that we play in our specific conference. In your case, it's Conference USA. We like that, but we want to play in the top 25. That's the conference we want to play in. And look, you schedule like it, don't you?
We do. I've been doing this long enough. I understand the resume that you've got to be able to present to that 10-person committee at the end of the year if you want to be in consideration of one of those 33 at-large bids. And, hopefully everybody wants to win their tournament and get the automatic, but that's not the perfect world that we live in. So if you're not scheduling tough and you're not willing to go out there and get on the road and play tough opponents and year in, year out, you're probably not going to be in consideration.
Yeah, Scott, it is a wild system that is the NCAA baseball. But I got to say, it is an honor and a privilege to get to talk to you and the amount of experience and what you've been able to accomplish in the baseball world at the college level. Scott, last year coming off 47 wins, pitching, you guys are known for pitching. And, man, I know it was Liberty. It's one series. It's early. But can you talk a little bit about this amazing series your pitching staff had, how everyone looked? There was a lot of numbers, a lot of guys that looked really good, a lot of strikeouts. Tell us a little bit about the staff this year and how they showed up for you this weekend.
Well, very pleased with the 8 gentlemen that we put out there in the 3 games. We had tremendous starts from Tanner Hall, who was a All-American last year, pitched for Team USA, preseason All-American again this year. Certainly went out and did what Tanner Hall does. He gave you 5 innings in his first start of the year and was really, really good with that start. Matt Adams took game 2 for us, a young man that came on at the end of the year. Last year was really pleasant to see that because moving forward, we knew we were going to have to put somebody in that spot in the weekend this year, and Matt grabbed that and caught our attention last year and really played and pitched well on Saturday. And then another guy, Nico Mazza, was our third starter on Sunday. He covered 5 1/3 innings. A guy that really got logjam between a really, really deep staff last year as a true freshman, only appeared in 5 1/3 innings last year, but really groomed him for a starter this past fall, and I thought he performed very, very well. Bullpen pitched well, only gave up 1 extra base hit in the 3 games. That was in the 9th inning of Game 3 on Sunday. We gave up a home run, but outside that, we never gave up an extra base hit, and performed really well.
Yeah, you could say that again. And I wanted to dive just a little bit deeper. I don't know how to pronounce this name correctly, but just going through the stat lines, Cross Sibley with 8 strikeouts and 4 innings of relief appearance. Tell us a little bit about his outing and what you saw from him and what was the strikeout pitch, what was working for him, because 8 strikeouts out of relief in 4 innings is pretty remarkable.
Well, great story, Hunter. The young man was a redshirt freshman this year. Really last year, made the decision just because, 1, we had a really deep staff, but 2, he just wasn't ready to go. And then honestly, this fall, he didn't really show that he was going to be ready as well, but came back from Christmas and performed. His bullpen started out just really good. Our pitching coach, who's outstanding, Christian Ostrander, he's also my associate head coach, kept telling me after bullpens, hey, man, I think Sibley's going to help us. Coach, it's really good stuff. And so then we started using him obviously in preseason scrimmages. He performed really well. He's a young man, a 3-pitch guy that has tremendous arm side run with his fastball from the left side, a really deceptive breaking ball. And I guess, the biggest thing that we've seen out of Cross is that his stuff has been there, but the ability to control and attack the zone, that's what's been showing up. And certainly it did that on Saturday with his first career win and in his debut as a Division I pitcher.
Matthew Etzel is a prospect that a lot of people have been looking at since Panola was his original spot. Then he found you guys. Had 3 hits on the opening weekend. But I'd love to know a little bit of how he's fit into your program, who he is as an athlete, what we can look forward to seeing him once he now steps onto the D1 level.
I've been really bragging to him in the media and to our fans how good this kid's going to be and is right now. He leads off for us, 6'4" from the left side, 215 pounds, can really, really run. He makes playing center field as easy as anybody I've ever had in a long career. I know he's got a chance to be the best center fielder that's ever been here since I've been here for 23 years now, but he makes it look easy. I'm predicting that he will set the season double records this year. He is just so quick out of the box. He's aggressive. He has that no fear and being able to go from first to second on a routine single or anything that's off angle in the outfield. And tremendous addition to our program, works very hard, comes early, stays late, does everything, has the intangibles to be a really great player.
And you're a veteran team. You're an older team, yet one of the other newcomers is Tate Parker. He's a freshman. And to crack a lineup like that with so many returning successful players that hosted a super last year, that's tough to do. Tate's done it. How?
Well, actually, he's a junior college transfer. He's a junior this year. So he was at Pearl River Community College that won the Division II national championship at the JUCO level. He was the D2 Player of the Year last year in JCAA. But, just a young man that barrels balls up. He just doesn't swing and miss a lot, very aggressive at the plate, has got, power for his size, plays the game hard. He's really blue collar, and then he's kind of a player that I like. He's one of those throwback guys that just gets after you, and that's what he's been able to do, and that's why he's been in the lineup.
Yeah, and off to a great start, as well as Blake Johnson, who hit pretty well. Something that I thought was interesting, Scott, and I know you were just in one series, but I would just like to get your thoughts on 852 homers hit in the first weekend of college baseball, which surpassed last season. That's 1.89 homers per game. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that this is part of the swing tech? I mean, arms are throwing them really hard. You have a lot of those big arms. There probably wasn't a lot of homers in your series, but have you noticed a trend? Like, what is the cause of this home run surge?
Well, I think, power supplies power. Number one, if you can intersect that ball, then certainly you're going to have a recoil and an action reaction from that. So I think number one, swing plane is very, very important. Of course, I'm old school. I like a flat plane. I don't like this elevated stuff and launch angle. I like back spinning balls because I know if you can stay in the zone longer, then you have a chance for less room for error with it. And obviously with these guys that are throwing really, really hard, if you can square that thing up in an intersection, it's got a chance of going even farther. But, this past weekend, there was only 3 home runs hit in the 3 games at our place, 2 by our guys, Blake Johnson and Tate Parker, and then 1 on Sunday by Liberty. But I will tell you that both teams pitched extremely well. I was very impressed with Liberty's pitchers on the mound. They were velocity guys that really threw strikes. So I hope that Southern Miss gets in that home run category that you were just talking about. As you were saying that, I was thinking we weren't counting in there very many, just 2 of those 800 and some.
Yeah, but y'all are 2 pitching programs, and Liberty is a solid team that y'all swept up there. So a lot to be excited about for you. And speaking of that, of playing that well, it was clean. There was only 2 errors on the weekend. Solid defense, solid pitching, offense. Battled a tough pitching staff. What is like your message to your players when? I know it's early and there's a long way to go. And for me, you always have to have that growth mindset. So I would just love to hear, like, what's the message? What's the preparation? What are some of the adjustments you guys are diving into?
Well, I try to keep it really simple. Try not to get very complicated in any of our philosophy and approach, in all honesty. We concentrate on playing the game, not playing the opponent. 3 phases of the game. You got pitching, hitting, and defense. You've got to have a combination of 2 of the 3 to have a chance to win, and that doesn't guarantee you that. I've had all 3 on days and experienced it, and we still lost. But you've got to have at least 2 of those 3 variables show up, and play the game consistent. This game is enough of roller coaster if you let it ride, emotions high and low. So we talk a lot about just staying even keel and understanding the consistency that you have to come out and perform every day based on whether you win or lose the prior game to give yourself a chance to win. So, I think if you stay within those boundaries, you got a chance to do it, and you got a chance to do it consistently. And fortunately, over the years, that seems to be what we try to preach and been able to do.
Hunter mentioned his name, and I'd love to get a little further introduction to Blake Johnson, kind of a glue guy on your team. From one catcher, meaning you, to another, how do you evaluate him, not only as a catcher, but as a leader?
Well, number one, defensive skills. I want him to be a presence out there in the field. All 8 other players are sitting there looking at him. And so his actions, the way he leads, the way that he's able to put his face in front of a 90-plus mile-an-hour fastball to block, to keep a guy from advancing or scoring from third, sets the tone on how we play defensively. He's really developed nicely as a hitter, had a really good weekend for us. He's a young man, 5 games into the season last year, broke his hamate bone and was out for 20 games. Our backup catcher at that time, Rodrigo Montenegro, who actually started the game on Sunday, and Blake took over for him. Rodrigo had to cover 20 games last year with no other backup catcher. So every morning I was on my knees saying my prayers as I was at night going to bed that we didn't lose Rodrigo, because I really didn't know what we would do. But he was like an MVP for that time until we could get Blake back in that Charlotte series. But Blake hadn't missed a beat. He came back, gave us a great second half of the season, carried over to this fall. Obviously, he's a senior. He's showing us that leadership. And he's just a guy that loves to come out and play the game and lead by example.
Pete Taylor Park, can you give us a verbal description of what life is like, what the crowds are like, what your fans are like? Because I'm going to imagine it's pretty fun.
Well, very passionate fan base, as is the whole state of Mississippi. I discovered this several years back, that when you take the top 3 Division I programs in every state, you total the attendance at the end of the year, no state comes close to what the state of Mississippi, a population of 3 million or a little less, does each year. But Pete Taylor Park, and particularly the Southern Miss fan base, they have shown up in record numbers. We've sold out season tickets this year. We had almost 16,000 people for the 3 games, over 5,000 every game. So we've sold over 5,000 season tickets right here. So we're at maximum. But, they've been that way for a while, been very passionate, but certainly the success that we've had over the last 2 years and really last year, hosting a regional, hosting a super regional, has really set this fan base on fire. So couldn't be more proud of what we have here and the investment that our community and fan base and the state of Mississippi makes in baseball.
Yeah, Scott, Mississippi baseball, being a guy growing up in the South, man, the fans, they love it. They get all their cooking going on, a lot of razzing. It's a fun atmosphere, and I'm sure you guys got that buzz going. I had one more question for you, Scott. This has been awesome getting to hear from you. Just about a little bit of the rule changes, and what are your thoughts on, did you feel it? Did it impact your games at all, the kind of uptick of speed? I know they're doing it in the big leagues. They're also now implementing this in college. It's a little weird for me I'm kind of more of an old school guy, even though I like to learn the new stuff and I enjoy what you can learn from it. But what are your thoughts on the speed?
Well, it did not come into effect at all in 3 games with ourselves or Liberty, in all honesty. But we felt that sense of urgency. And I can tell you, Scott Jackson at Liberty, a good friend of mine, he'll tell you the same. I mean, whether you like the rules or not, the rule is the rule. I mean, you're going to have to adjust whether you like it or not. And that's what, with every rule change, especially if you're old school, you kind of question it. But at the end of the day, it's the rule, and you better figure out how to abide by the rules. And it's the same way with our players. So there's no excuse for it. In all honesty, you know what it is. Certainly does it get to be challenging? It does for me as a third base coach and giving signs, because my hitter's only got 10 seconds. So we have to get the signs early, and we can't miss them. Otherwise, we're going to either take a strike or we're going to take one of our 3 offensive timeouts with that. And I hate that, because there's certain situations in the game that maybe require a little bit more time, especially late in the game when time, it's on the line. But once again, it's the adjustment that we have to make. That's the rule. The umpires are put in that position to enforce the rules. It's not their fault. And, I think as everybody continues through it, honestly, Hunter, I think it'll become more part normal of the game.
Great stuff. Thank you, Scott, for your insights. Best of luck. You've got a good weekend coming up. Then it's Mississippi State, Dallas Baptist, Ole Miss. The challenges keep on coming. Go get them this year.
Guys, thank you very much for what you do for college baseball.
Southern Miss, one of the great stories in the country. And I love that stat about attendance. Incredible with the state of Mississippi. More on Perfect Game College Baseball. You're watching Perfect Game TV. We talked about him coming on the air to start this show. Brody Brecht is a player that plays wide receiver for Iowa. Think about the grit and grind that goes on in doing that. But then he steps up onto the mound. This Perfect Game alum, we see him as a pitcher, and the arm gets bigger, stronger, and now there's command that goes along with us. And Brody spends time with us now. Brody, thanks for hanging out with Hunter and I. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me.
Has it been 2 sports your entire life? Was there once basketball in the mix? Have you always been a man who has been blessed enough to compete at a high level? I mean, you won a state championship football. Has it been 2 sports for as long as you can remember? Maybe even 3?
Yeah, it's been 3 sports my whole life up until my freshman year. It was baseball, basketball, and football pretty much when I was, could walk until high school is when I started. I stopped playing basketball, kind of knew that I had, better abilities in football and baseball. So I hung up the basketball shoes, and then I would do track, try to, stay fast, and stay in shape during the winter. So yeah, that's kind of what it is right now, or it was. So
Yeah, Brody, it's a bit of like the kind of the old school. It's like you play a little bit of everything, and it kind of benefits you in some of the other sports, and play them as long as you can. Obviously, the time constraint in high school, it's tough
Yep.
to mix in the basketball, but you can mix in the track with like the timing of the schedule.
Yep.
I want to ask you because a lot of people are like, "Whoa, like that's really got to be punishing," which it probably is doing that at the college level because it's an extremely elite level. Iowa football, obviously. But what are the benefits for you getting to play football and baseball, and how do they help each other out a little bit?
Yeah. So, first of all, I'd say it just keeps me busy. I'm always doing something. So I always stay in that, like, um, in the competitiveness of everything. I'm always like doing something, always trying to compete against other people. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the biggest thing that I take away from it, is it just keeps me on my toes and doing something. And then, Iowa, I feel like the strength and conditioning program is pretty known for, being intense and, getting guys, ready to go, play at the next level and stuff. And it's pretty developmental. So, I just think like me getting bigger, faster, stronger, has, added some velo to the arm. And so I think those are the kind of the two biggest ways that it's, helped me. And yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and yeah, the velo is there. The command was solid this first outing. Yeah, let's just talk about what it felt like. 5 perfect innings, no walks, I believe 10 strikeouts. Pretty electric stuff. And how did it feel for you? What was going right? And you said you had worked on a lot of things, but now it's all coming together.
Yeah, so the biggest thing that I need to work on, so a lot of my misses, last year and kind of my first couple bullpens this spring or this winter, I guess. But a lot of my misses are down and out, like on a righty. So I'm kind of yanking and pulling off, and the pitching coach Sean McGrath, we were watching film, like just kind of from the backside view of like me throwing, and when my arm in my head, like when the distance is like pretty significant, that's when I tend to yank it and I tend to pull it down. So like we've just been working on me really trying to just be straight to the plate, and just like straight through the catcher, is what he, describes it as. And, we've been working on that, and I'm glad it kind of, finally paid off, this first week. So yeah, I'm really excited to, see that kind of pay off, and I just got to keep it going now. So.
Brody had a couple of catches against Michigan on the football field, and that's a big thing. There were 70,000 fans there. But you also had a start on the baseball field against Michigan last year that kind of instilled some confidence in you that was a unique one. Talk about the turning point, not catching footballs against Michigan, but throwing baseballs against them last spring. What happened then?
Yeah, so that was my first start, in college, and obviously it didn't go very well, and that just really motivated me, and was kind of like a reality check for me. Like, hey, this is where we're at, and we know where we can be, and how do we get there? And so that kind of really just pushed me and motivated me. Like I don't want to ever feel that feeling again, letting my team down, letting the fans down, letting myself down, really. So I just really wanted to go to work and like, what can I do to improve? How do I, gain the command? How do I gain the control, put it where I want to? I get behind in the count. How do I, rip a slider in there? How can I throw off speed and fastball counts? Just kind of keep the hitters on their toes. So that's kind of really, that game honestly is kind of a blessing in disguise. Obviously in the moment it sucked. But now that I look back on it, I think that was probably one of the best things that could happen to me as of right now. So.
Yeah, there were moments. Certainly, Ball State, you pitched amazing against Ball State. You struck out 7 in 4 innings. And as you said, an outing like that. Then you've done what you've done to Quinnipiac. You called it, and I loved how you said it in an interview that Hunter and I snuck in on some of your interviews to watch. You called it the race to maturity.
Yep.
I've never heard it phrased that way, and that's kind of what you were describing, you and your mate Marcus Morgan, kind of superstars going through this growth process together. What entails the race to maturity in your mind? What are some things that you've been able to add to your arsenal as it pertains to maturing as a baseball player, maybe as a man too?
Yep. So actually the race to maturity, I heard it from my receiver coach, Coach Copeland. He's the one that, I heard that from. He always said, in college it's a race to maturity. So like for me, like on the baseball side of things, in high school, being, like me and Marcus, we were dominant in high school. Didn't really have to face any adversity. And then here we get to college, there's a lot of ups and downs, throughout our first season. And so for me, I just, maturing wise, I just think like now, like like I was breathing really fast my freshman year. Like my counts, like my holds, like everything was quick to the plate. People could time up on it. So I just really like this year, just kind of controlling my breathing, just trying to relax, not get too amped up. Obviously, still want to have that, adrenaline going, but not, to the point where, I'm, shaking on the mound, not knowing where the ball is going. So yeah, really just, kind of working on my breathing, my holds, 1 count, 3 count, whatever it is. That's kind of just the biggest thing right now. And then letting your defense work is kind of, another big thing in college. Like in high school, my mindset was I got to strike everybody out, or else it wasn't a good day. And that was kind of my mindset my freshman year too. But I realized like, I didn't have to be too cute. I didn't have to try to paint the corners every pitch. Like I have, I've been blessed with, some good, with some velocity and, being able to, rip a slider in there. So just, Coach Sean McGrath, he's been just throw your stuff just over the plate. Like let our defense work. You got the stuff, just put it in there, and let our defense work. So my defense made some great plays on Saturday. And, I'm thankful that, so.
Yeah, Brody. I mean, it's such an amazing perspective. You said so many things that I think are just incredible. The fact that you called it a blessing in disguise. And that's what, a lot of adversity is that. There's a great gift. And it looks like you are reflecting on that and learning from it. And then once again, you talked about a wide receiver coach giving you a mindset that translates into baseball that you would have never had if you're not playing both sports. A race to maturity and slowing the game down. These are what mature players learn to do. A slow heartbeat is what we call it. Amidst the violent chaos, can you be calm and collected within? And you're getting there. Beautiful stuff. But I got to ask you, because watching you pitch, it really looks like a big leaguer. I'm not going to say the name, but is there anyone you emulate, or is it just coming out like that with you focused on driving through the center and trusting the defense?
To be honest, I don't really watch a lot of MLB baseball. But like from what I've heard, like my high school coach always said, Tyler Glasnow, he's tall, long hair, just slings it in there. So I guess you could say that, but, I mean, I love watching DeGrom pitch when he's healthy. I'm not saying I'm trying to like emulate him or whatever, but it's always cool to like, watch the best of the best go out there and dominate. And, hopefully, I can get there one day.
All right, man. It's crazy because you look like, at least maybe this clip was so Garrett Cole to me. You even have the Garrett Cole hair, but I could see the DeGrom as well. I haven't seen Glasnow pitch enough. He's been hurt for a little bit, but yeah, I could. You the guys that throw cheese. That's who you. That's who you align with. All right, and then I just wanted to ask a little bit about the mental work you talked about in one of your interviews. And I'm a huge fan. And like, I love that your buddy Marcus, y'all talked about, I didn't know baseball was this mental. I just went out and did it. And that's part of maturity, is starting to learn how much of this mental changes everything. This is a gold mine for me. And you just said, I come out with more confidence. How do you just have more confidence? Like, I don't feel like that just happens without intention. And what are some of the processes for you to build that confidence?
Yeah, I just think you just have to, Coach Heller, he always says you have to trust in your training. So for me, I was whenever we do our bullpens, playing catch, whenever we're doing pitching drills, fielding balls, covering first, I'm always doing it with an intent to get better and be the best I can be, so that in the games, when stuff starts going haywire, runners on base, runners on third, we can't let them score. That I can go back and rely on like my fundamentals, my training, and know that I can have the confidence in what I've been doing and what I've been training, so I can go out there and I can succeed in that situation. So I just think that's kind of the biggest thing, is what I've, learned here is, like Coach Heller says, just, you got to be able to, fall back on your fundamentals and your training. So I think that's kind of what's helped me a lot. So yeah.
Interesting stuff. Iowa, you guys go to Round Rock, Texas. You invite some good weather into your lives, you hope anyway. Friday, Saturday, Sunday are the games. Which game are you pitching?
I'll be pitching against LSU.
There you go. You saw me fishing for the answer. How much does that mean to have that opportunity? We've already talked about it. You play in a great conference. You pitch against great teams. But everyone's heard about LSU, like they're hearing about you as an individual. How excited are you, and what do you know about LSU? Looking forward to it.
I'm super excited, for the challenge. Obviously, LSU is a great team, got a lot of great players. It'll be a sweet environment. But my mindset is just to, obviously it's a big game, so I'm not going to try to get too worked up, too anxious about it. I'm just going to try to, go out there and, play like it's just another game, go out there and do my thing. Obviously, pitching wise, I'm just trying not get too high and not get too low because, obviously it was a great weekend last weekend, but like you said, got a really good team playing on Saturday. So, I know, I'm probably going to have to face some adversity throughout the game. But I'm super excited to, kind of try to take on LSU, and I'm embracing that challenge, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we had Skeens on this show last week, so we're lucky. We're getting to talk to cool dudes like you and Skeens back to back. You guys aren't facing one another, are you? I don't think that's the case.
I don't think so. I think he's their Friday guy, and I'm pretty sure we play them Saturday. So
you may face him as a hitter, though.
He's a good two-way guy too. So we'll see.
Hey, Brody, don't forget they got to face you. Hey,
that's
LSU,
right.
You got to face me, baby, and I'm packing a hungy. Come and get it, baby. That's what I'd be telling you as a teammate. So I gotta ask you a real serious question here. Who's funnier, the football team or the baseball team? Where do you laugh more, and who is the funniest teammate you have?
I mean, it's different because baseball there's a lot less guys, so you're like, I feel like you get closer with a lot of the guys on the team more than football. You got 120 guys on the team. But the funniest person I know is definitely on the receiver. He's in the receiver room. Is Deontay Vines. He cracks jokes all the time. He's hilarious, uncensored. He's funny. But a lot of great teammates, a lot of great friends. Really some brothers for life that I've some bonds that I've formed. So yeah, I'm blessed to be in the spot that I'm in right now.
It's incredible. I can't imagine what it's like to be in front of 104,000 fans. I know you guys had your hands full with Ohio State, but I can't imagine what that's like. Man, best of luck. Have a great weekend. Have a great season. Please stop by and chat with Hunter and us again. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. Appreciate you having me. Really an honor to be on here with you guys, and yeah, appreciate it.
The honor was ours. When we come back, we'll chat with the great writer and scout, Vinnie Cervino. What are the biggest stories in college baseball heading into weekend number 2, looking back on week number 1. This is Perfect Game College Baseball on Perfect Game TV. What's going on in college baseball? This show is not valid without the voices of Perfect Game's college baseball coverage. Vinnie Cervino joins us now. He leads all the coverage of college baseball. Vinnie, thanks for hanging out with us. I want to get to something I wanted to ask about. I know Hunter has a couple of subjects. It's that Grand Canyon win over Tennessee, because there were so many moving parts in that game. First of all, Chase Burns, I think, threw 1,000 miles an hour again. Jacob Wilson of Grand Canyon had another good game. And this young left-hander, Connor Markle, at least had your attention a little bit. That was a fun game, mid-major against number 2 team in the land. What say you about that game?
Yeah, I think competitively, it was either that game or the rubber match of Fullerton Stanford. It was probably the top game of the weekend. 4-3 final score, a lot of back and forth throughout the entire game. Not a lot of offense at a park, Grand Canyon, when the sun sets. Can be a little bit difficult to hit. Connor Markle pitched great. Daniel Avicia pitched great. Jacob Wilson obviously shown out on a national stage. It was a really, really fun game.
Yeah, Vinny, I want to. You mentioned Fullerton, and obviously they got the great new head coach over there, and this is kind of the second season, and there was a lot of talk about that series and how obviously they went 1-2 against Stanford, but still looked like they're moving in the right track. Can you talk a little bit about Stanford and Fullerton?
Yeah, so we had Steve Fiorendo, one of our West Coast scouts, out there for the first 2 games of the series. And I texted him actually on Sunday night, kind of when Zach Lou hit that game-tying home run in the bottom of the 9th inning. I texted him. I said, "Hey, what's wrong with Stanford?" And he responded to me. He said, "Nothing's wrong with Stanford. Fullerton's just got a lot better." And I think that's pretty good to see, because obviously Fullerton is a team with a very rich history, this very rich tradition. A lot of guys who have kind of taken that next step in this past offseason, this year. It looks like they should be a pretty competitive team again, which would be, I think, good for the sport overall.
Absolutely, Vinny. And I got to ask about, a team that's near and dear to my heart, who actually lost to Stanford in the Super Regional, it was the Regional Championships. But, man, what a great start for Texas State. Offense going off. True freshman, 3 at-bats, 3 homers. Tell us a little bit. I don't know what you've heard, but what is Texas State looking like this year?
So Texas State is obviously the one team that entered our top 25 rankings this week at number 24. We were very high in them coming into the season. Obviously, we think that they have a very good program. They had a really good team last year, like you mentioned, Hunter. Kind of got boned a little bit getting that number 2 seed in the Stanford Regional, going all the way across the country, but hit 437 as a team to open this weekend. Obviously, one weekend is one weekend, but still hitting 437 is kind of nuts. In the Sun Belt, they'll have one of the best 1-2 punches in the entire conference between Zeke Wood and Levi Wells. This is a team we were high on coming into the year, and they've hit the ground running, so to speak, right out of the gate.
Yeah, it's interesting too, seeing the mid-majors do well. One of those that kind of doesn't really play like a mid-major is Southern Miss. We had Scott Berry on this show earlier. I think we would just love hearing Scott talk about his team is one thing. We'd love a scout's perspective on Southern Miss. They opened 3-0. Liberty's a respectable foe, certainly. When we talk Southern Miss, Vinny, what are your thoughts?
So doing the rankings updates, obviously this was one of the more impressive series wins of the opening weekend. Liberty, like you mentioned, Sutton is a very good team, typically very good year in, year out. In 27 innings, the Southern Miss staff allowed 1 extra base hit. That's absolutely bonkers. So Southern Miss can pitch. Obviously, they have one of the best pitchers in the country in Tanner Hall, the reigning Conference USA Pitcher of the Year, probably the favorite to win Sun Belt Pitcher of the Year this year. They're a very good team. They're one of the best teams in the state of Mississippi, a very good baseball team, baseball state, as you guys well know. Ole Miss, Mississippi State, back-to-back champs there. But Southern Miss, is it their turn, perhaps, to win the national championship in Mississippi this year? We'll have to see, but this is a very, very good Southern Miss team.
Barry dropped something on us that was kind of cool. If you take the top 3 D1 programs in every state around the country, all 50 states, top 3 only, and you do attendance, Mississippi wins. Mississippi, the number 1 attended D1. That is super cool. The other gentleman we had on this show, again, I want your perspective, plays for Iowa. He plays football. He plays baseball. Brody Brecht is a big arm. This is a talented guy. We loved learning from him. He's got LSU this coming weekend. What say you about Brody Brecht and your research, having your scouts see him through the years?
Brody Brecht might have the best stuff in college baseball, just period. He'll be anywhere from 98 to 102, one of the best breaking balls, very good changeup. It's elite stuff. Command has never quite been there, like you mentioned. He's a 2-sport athlete, plays wide receiver for the Hawkeye football team. But this past weekend, threw 5 innings of five perfect innings against Quinnipiac down in Port Charlotte, Florida. Obviously, QU not the most elite sort of talent, so LSU is obviously going to be a little bit of an upgrade there. But watching Brecht against LSU this weekend is definitely going to be on the top of my priority list, and we'll have scouting coverage out there as well.
Yeah, that is something I want to find. I want to come and see, Brody Brecht versus LSU. And, LSU off to an undefeated start. Another team that's off to an undefeated start that I think is expected to do good, and they're answering it, Wake Forest. Tell us a little bit about what Wake Forest weekend. Nick Kurtz, obviously perfect game player of the week. Let's hear a little bit about him. 4 home runs. This Wake Forest team, it looks like something to be reckoned with.
Yeah, Wake hit 13 home runs over 4 games going undefeated this weekend. And we think they're going to be able to do that a lot this year. Just both combined with the fact that the talent of their hitters, plus, Wake's not the biggest park. But Nick Kurtz, like you mentioned, PG player of the week this week, got on base at a 684 clip over 4 games, 4 home runs, including a grand slam opening night. I've said it before on this program. This is the best team Wake Forest has had, I think, ever. So expectations are obviously high. Rhett Lauder looked very good in his start. Teddy McGraw missed his start, but he should be back either next week or the week after. This is an elite, talented roster, and probably the best in the ACC, and one that should definitely make it to Omaha if everything's clicking on the right cylinders for them.
Incredible stuff, Vinny. Sorry we rushed you in at the backside of this, man. Will you or Craig come every single week and give us validity? Because that's what you do. You give Hunter and I validity. Will you do that every single week?
Oh, it's not a problem.
Yeah, that's great stuff. He's Hunter Pence. I'm Daron Sutton. Vinnie Cervino. We also want to thank Brody Brecht and Scott Berry. We'll talk to you after week 2 on Perfect Game College Baseball. Until then, enjoy the games all weekend long. See you soon.